Alrighty, so the 9 games from today's Saturday action is all done. And by the way, happy 4th of July to everybody, because by the time this video is going to be uploaded to my channel, it's pretty much going to be 4th of July. And also, if you do hear some firework that is going off in the background, that's pretty much part of the early 4th of July festivity that is going on. And even though technically people should not be shooting off firework right now, because it's not until 4th of July when they're actually be able to be legally firing those fireworks. Nobody really paid attention, and it's not like the police department actually are really going to catch them or anything. So yeah, if you do hear firework in the background, just to know that of course is going to be the case. And it's also another reason why I said back in the preview I decided to not do the review tomorrow after the 4th of July game is over, because it's going to get even louder than what you're about to hear in the background. It's going to be basically constantly where it's unrecordable for me to do a review when all the fireworks are going off outside. But let us actually begin in terms of looking at these 9 games. And in terms of these games, well, speaking of fireworks, there were definitely some fireworks in terms of some of these games, and we'll definitely get to this one, which, yeah, anyway, let us begin with the first one, which is Columbus versus New England. And I gotta say, this game, I thought this was going to be a game that probably was going to be tight, and there wasn't really going to be a lot that's going to be happening, and maybe it's going to be a game similar to the last one, where one goal is pretty much going to win the game. Boy, I was definitely wrong about that, because this was definitely a very exciting game, and in some way, this kind of is a game that we saw similar to when Austin opened their new building, and also earlier this season when FC Cincinnati opening their new building, where it just feels like every time when the new building is open, you always tends to get some very exciting action in terms of some of these games. And certainly Lower.com field was absolutely rocking in terms of the 20,000 that attended this one. Now, in the first half, Diaz actually almost scored the first goal at Lower.com field 42 seconds in, and if he would have scored that first goal, I think that would have been the fastest goal ever scored by a player in the stadium opener, because I don't recall any game when there's a game that takes place in a new building for the very first time that we have seen that quick that we will see the first goal that is scored in a new building. But unfortunately, he puts that one wide. Affle then drags it wide from 21 yards out, and you can clearly see Columbus, they were wasting no time to get that first goal, and the crowd was definitely roaring early on, thinking that their team was going to get the first goal. But then in the 13th minute, little did they know that it was actually the opposition, the one that gets the first goal, and it would be Tajon Buchanan, the one will cement himself in history as the first goal scored at Lower.com field history, as he scored from Dumont Jones to make it 1-0 against or 1-0 in favor of New England. And that was just completely against the run of play. Like, Columbus were by far the better team in the first 10 minutes, and just kind of out of nowhere, New England go on their first attack, and they basically score the opening goal of this game. Now, Zardes did try to tie it up immediately after New England took the lead, but unfortunately he heads that one wide from close range. Then Zarian hits a free kick that goes straight to Matt Turner in the 28th minute, before 1 minute later, New England would double their lead. It's Gustavo Bo scoring from Tajon Buchanan and Tommy McNamara to make it 2-0 in favor of New England. And that 20,000 plus that was rocking early in the game, well, they were just dead silent after that goal was scored. I mean, they were probably stunned. The fact that, Columbus, I didn't think they played badly up to that point, but they find themselves down to nothing because the refs were just by far the more clinical side. Now, the good news is that 20,000 fans did have something to cheer about not long after, because Jarzy Zardes would score the first ever goal for Columbus at their new stadium, as he scored from Afro and Wormgård. And certainly it's only fitting the fact that Jarzy Zardes scoring the last goal at the historic Crew Stadium, and now he become the first goal scorer for the Columbus Crew at the new stadium that just opened today. But we do head to halftime with New England having a 2-1 lead, and in the second half, Diaz did try to put a 12-yard shot in and try to tie it up, but unfortunately he puts that one wide. And this almost was kind of similar to what happened early in the first half, where Columbus looked like they were going to get a goal early in the first half, and they almost did it in the second half. And it's actually Diaz, the one that is the same player that almost almost score an early goal heading into the second half. Then the VAR chant basically rang out around the crowd as they thought that Santos brought down Kessler in the box. They did kind of temporarily check to see whether or not that's a foul, but in the end it isn't. And for me, I don't think that was a foul. I think Santos kind of went down a little bit too easily in terms of that play. But as the game goes on, you can see New England, they were definitely sitting deep and looking to try to counter. But then in the 69th minute, Columbus would tie the game up. And this would be an absolute calamity of an error that we've seen by the Revs back line. Which, by the way, this is going to be the only time I'm going to talk about how there is some calamity of error that happened that led to an own goal. Because this was literally an over-the-top ball. And, Andrew Farrell, he pretty much was running toward his goal. And I guess he was maybe trying to flick it back to Matt Turner, but for whatever reason, when that ball kind of hits him, it took an awkward bounce, and Turner was already sprinting out, looking to try to catch that. I'm not sure, maybe there's like some miscommunication between Farrell and Turner, but once that ball kind of took an awkward bounce off of Farrell's head, it basically trickled toward net. Now, both Farrell and Turner did try to save it, and also Jarzy Zardes also tried to run toward to make sure that goes into the back of the net. Now, there is also kind of a controversy with this goal, being that, Zardes, it definitely looked like he did kind of make contact with both Turner and Farrell as that ball trickled into the back of the net. But when you look on the replay, I think there is really definitive evidence to kind of overturn it. Especially, it kind of looked like it was both Farrell and Turner just kind of collide to each other as they were trying to save that one off the line. But nevertheless, what a calamity of an error that is. And, that was just an absolute gift that Columbus have received. But they'll definitely take it as the game ties it up at 2 apiece. Affo then try a volley from 20 yards out, but it goes wide in the 73rd minute. The crowd was definitely raising the decibel as Columbus, knowing they have the momentum, they were looking to try to get that third goal. And in the 85th minute, they thought they got the third goal, but Matt Turner absolutely robs Zardes. And then there on the fall, there was actually some coming together because I think it was Matan that actually stepped on Turner as he, of course, made the save. And obviously, when you're an attacker and you decide to do that after the goalkeeper already has the ball, the opposition is not going to be happy about that. So there was definitely some coming together in terms of that. But in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Andrew Farrell, who of course made that mistake early in the game, kind of redeemed himself in this instant as he was able to clear Matan's shot off the line. But then there was also a couple of opportunities for Columbus to get the third goal on the follow-up, but unfortunately they weren't able to put that one in. And in the end, after a crazy and wild game in the first ever match at Lower.com Field, it ends in a 2-2 draw. And the shots in this game, 18 shots compared to 8 that New England has, 7 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Revs had, 6 shots off target compared to none that the Revs had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that the Revs had. And possession-wise, Columbus has the better of the possession, 68% possession compared to 32% possession that New England has in this game. But nevertheless, what a game this was, and certainly the 20,000 fans there definitely got their money's worth in terms of this game, although they'll be kind of a little bit disappointed that they didn't see their team win at the end. But still, this was definitely a valiant effort for Columbus, down 2-0, and you would think that all hopes are probably lost for them, but they're able to show some resilience and also kind of show their intercity neighbor, this is how you're able to come back from a 2-0 deficit and make sure you don't concede a late goal to the opposition and let the opposition win 3-2 when you're opening a new building and play your first game at your brand new stadium. But now moving on, in terms of the next match. So if you're a TFC fans, you should maybe skip about a couple of minutes later into this video because, yeah, this was ugly. And, I've said back on Friday, or not on Friday, but back on Thursday when I made a video talk about who exactly could potentially be the first coach that being fired this season. And, I did say that Chris Armas probably is the least likeliest out of the 5 that I mentioned, mainly because, he's a first-year head coach with TFC, and usually first-year head coach, they do get a little bit more leeway, and knowing the fact that, it seems like the front office that TFC had, which is owned by Ali Curtis, and, since he's a former Redbulls GM, and, he also was the one that hired Chris Armas during that time when the when he was still with the Redbulls. I feel like there's kind of a connection between Chris Armas and the front office, where the front office is probably not going to fire him because of that. Now, one thing I did not mention is that there could still be a possibility where TFC can not only just fire Chris Armas, but they might even fire their GM too. And if they do decide to do that, or maybe do what the Quakes did, which is decide to fire their GM and bring in a new GM in, then I think Chris Armas' hot seat and job security would definitely be much lower. But this result definitely does not help his case in terms of his job security, and I know a lot of TFC fans have been demanding him to get out and demand him to get fired at this game, because like I said, this was just an ugly game that they play against DC United. And it all started in the second minute when they concede a goal just about 80 seconds in. It's Paredes scoring from Naha and Gresso to give DC United a 1-0 lead. Then Hamid did deny Larea as Aquino tried to follow the shot up, but unfortunately he missed wide. But then on the other end, Perez fired it high from 18 yards out, and the first 5 minutes was just incredible. Like, it was just end to end. It was a fireworks show in the first 4 minutes of this game, and it continued in the 5th minute when Hamid denied Aquino from 20 yards out. But then on the other end, Roberta scored for the second game in a row, and also scored around the same time that he did against NYCFC not just a couple of days ago, when he scored from Junior Moreno. Or in this case, he scored from Junior Moreno to give DC a 2-0 lead. Then Aquino looked like he got one back for TFC, but the goal was disallowed for offside. And then just 8 minutes later, it would be 3-0 in favor of DC, and it would be an own goal by Priso. And this was kind of an unfortunate own goal when one of the TFC players, of course, blocked that shot, but then it kind of took a wicked ricochet off of Priso, and then it was kind of toward goal bound, and unfortunately they weren't able to save that one off the line. But nevertheless, DC were up 3-0 inside 21 minutes, and even with that unfortunate own goal, I thought defending was basically non-existent for TFC in up to that point, and it would continue to be non-existent throughout the full 90 minutes. Perez then tried to curl one in the 34th minute, but he got that one all wrong. Before Aquinola did get one back for TFC, as he scored from Michael Bradley to make it 3-1 in up to that point, and that also would be the scoreline heading into halftime. But in the second half, just as maybe TFC could maybe get that second goal to come back from this, Bono almost made a huge mistake and almost gave DC the 4th goal, as he really got away with a mistake where he basically spilled a shot that was coming toward him, and Nyman wasn't able to punish him there as he puts that shot wide. But I also did wrote that Toronto, at least they kind of showed some pushback, and they looked like they were trying to maybe make this a 1-goal game. Larea tried to make that happen in the 63rd minute, but he puts that one wide from close range before Tony Alfaro missed a free header from 12 yards out in the 66th minute. But then in the 70th minute, it would be 4-0 in favor of DC. It's Ariola scored from Naha and Yao to make it 4-0 in favor of DC, and this is also when the floodgates basically open in this game. 8 minutes later, Zavaleta would get his second yellow card of the game, which 3 minutes later of that, it's Ola Kamara scoring from Griffin Yao to make it 5-1 in favor of TFC. Oh, by the way, as I mentioned with Ariola goal, that was actually at 4-1, not 4-0 as I originally said. But, the Kamara goal, that made it 5-1 up to that point. Then it would be 6-1 just 4 minutes later as Yamil Assad scored from Ariola to make it 6-1 before Griffin Yao, who already was on the assist chart twice early in this game and had an incredible game alongside with pretty much every single DC United attacker. Like, this was pretty much a dream day if you were a DC United attacker. But in this case, he would score from Ola Kamara to make it 7-1 in favor of DC United. Cue the Brazil versus Germany joke right there when that, of course, happened. And also, that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 21 shots compared to the 6 that TFC had. 9 shots on goal compared to 3 that TFC had. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 8 that DC United has. No shots that was blocked compared to 4 that DC United has. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that TFC had in this game. And yeah, as a Quakes fan, I know how you feel. TFC fans, I've been through this before. Where remember when the Quakes got destroyed 7-1 by the Seattle Sounders last year? Yeah, it does not feel good whatsoever. And we'll see on Monday whether or not if there is going to be a change to this team, because yeah, I mean, this team is not only on a very long winless run, which is now 8 games without a win, but this is kind of a resort that usually does get coaches fired, and especially with a team that has high expectation heading into this season. This should have never happened at any circumstances, and I even will go as far as say that this is probably the worst performance I've ever seen TFC has played of all my time watching them so far. And you know, if you're DC United, you definitely would enjoy this resort, and this is also what happened when they're actually able to put away their chances and then some, because this has been one of the issues that DC United has had, and this is also the reason why I think this team is definitely on the up in the Eastern Conference, because, you know, I'm not saying that they can do that every single game, because not every team in this league is able to do this in a consistent way, but at least if they can do maybe half of what they did in this game, watch out. This DC team can really rise up in the Eastern Conference. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Orlando versus the New York Redbulls. So, you know, for whatever reason, Orlando, they just cannot beat the Redbulls. Or maybe I should kind of word it in another way by saying that the Redbulls seems to have Orlando's number this year. Because, you know, the 2 losses that Orlando City has had so far this season, it's been both against the Redbulls. And that was the case again in this one. And actually, the Redbulls got an early lead in this one when Caceres Jr. scored from Kamala to make it 1-0 in favor of the Redbulls, and that kind of really stunned the crowd at Exploria Stadium, because, you know, their team was playing so well in this past week, and now all of a sudden they just gave up an early goal to go down 1-0 in this game. But then they kind of thought that they celebrate the equalizer just 6 minutes later when Antonio Carlos scored, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside. Or actually, no, it wasn't disallowed for offside. It was disallowed because there was a foul in the box that was against Orlando City. In the 17th minute, Cornell did deny Mueller from close range. Orlando was pushing for the equalizer up to that point. Mueller then had another chance, but he puts this one wide from close range. I thought Mueller had a decent game in this one, and he actually ends up on the score sheet a little bit later on in this one. But then in the 37th minute, after the Red Bull seems to be under a lot of pressure ever since they took that opening, they took the lead just 6 minutes into this game. Fabio almost made it 2-0, and he tried to chip it over Brendan Austin's head, but unfortunately that one goes wide there. Then the 44th minute, a penalty was given to Orlando City, and this was definitely a controversial penalty because, you know, when I look on the replay, it definitely did not look like Tom Edwards made any contact to Perea, and in many ways I feel like Perea kind of embellished that a little bit, and of course that's why it was given a penalty. And I think they even kind of check it through VAR to see whether or not if that's the case, and VAR basically said it's a penalty, even though I look at it a couple of times and I just don't see the contact that Tom Edwards basically brought down Perea into the box. And if there was any contact, then that probably is a very soft kind of contact, and in many ways this feels like it's one of those soft penalty that unfortunately is given. But nevertheless, you know, the Red Bulls does get some justice after this controversial penalty, because Carlos Cornell would comes up bit to deny Perea from the spot. Orlando City has been having a lot of issue in terms of the penalty spot lately. I mean, I know they usually always put Nani as the main penalty taker, but Nani recently hasn't really been a good penalty kick taker. I mean, he did score that penalty against the Quakes last week, but if you look at his track record in terms of converting the penalty, it's actually not that good with Orlando City. And it's kind of unsurprising that Mauricio Perez decided to take this one, because the team might have thought that Nani, you know, he might not that might not be the right spot for him to take the penalty. Or maybe Maurizio Pereira basically took the ball away from Nani and say, I'm going to basically take this penalty, but unfortunately that did not quite work out. But at the same time, as I said, I think justice was made because I didn't think that was a penalty, and this is also one of those cases that the ball clearly did not lie during that situation. But we head to halftime with a 1-0 lead in favor of the Redbulls, but in the second half, Orlando City would equalize, and it's Chris Mueller that scores from Pereira to tie the game up at 1 apiece. So Pereira at least kind of make amends of his penalty miss by getting on the assist chart. But then Kamala did had a chance in the 67th minute as he missed one from long range. Then he probably should have scored as he had a big opportunity from close range, but unfortunately puts that one wide. Nani then dragged a shot that just goes wide in the 75th minute. I thought the game was really up for grabs for both of these teams, and this just kind of feels like it's one of those games where whoever scores the next goal is probably going to win this game. And the team that scored the next goal turns out to be the Redbulls, as in the 79th minute, Fabio would score from Kamala and Yearwood to retake the lead for the Redbulls. Orlando did try to push late for the equalizer, but ultimately the Redbulls were able to hang on for all 3 points in this game, and also this is the first time this season that they have been able to get a road win this year. As the final score of this one was 2-1 in favor of the Redbulls. Shots in this one, the Redbulls had 18 shots compared to 13 that Orlando City has. 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that Orlando City has. 7 shots off target compared to 9 that the Redbulls had. 5 shots that was blocked compared to none that Orlando City has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Redbulls had in this game. And like I said, the Redbulls, they seems to have Orlando City number, and I'm not quite sure exactly if they're going to play each other again later this year, but if you're a Red Bulls fan, you hope that of course is the case, because it seems like they love to play against Orlando City, no matter if it's at home or on the road. And for Orlando City, I guess maybe that last week it kind of really got into them, and we've seen this before where teams might go in a good have an amazing week, but then they kind of have a big letdown heading into the following one, and that just seems like that might be the case with Orlando City in terms of this match against the Red Bulls. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Montreal and Miami, and yeah, for Inter Miami, the misery continue, because after this loss, it's now 5 straight losses that Inter Miami has had in this game. And by the way, earlier in the preview, I mentioned how this game was another battle between landlords versus renter. Well, it turns out that was not the case, because I later found out that this game was moved to Red Bull Arena, and the reason why this game was moved to Red Bull Arena, which was kind of formerly the home of CF Montreal, in terms of making it as a temporary venue, is because the stadium in Inter Miami, which I think it's called Drive Pink Stadium. That stadium is currently about to host some Gold Cup pre-qualifying games, and that's why they can of course have those games down in Miami right now. So that's why this game was moved to Red Bull Arena. But early in this game, Montreal was definitely on the front foot. Wanyama did try to drill one from long range, but it goes wide in the 7th minute before McCoon actually cleared off the line not once but twice. So, and it's very rare we see players able to be a hero and basically clear a shot off the line, but McCoon here did it twice, and he was able to deny first Kyoto and Mihailovic in terms of those clearance. Then in the 20th minute, there was a shout for a penalty for Montreal, but no penalty was given there. There was another shout for a penalty just 6 minutes later, as they thought that Mihailovic was brought down into the box. Again, no penalty was given by the referee. Then Leerdam in the 31st minute tried to sneak a free kick in, but it was easily covered by Temes, and that was really the first opportunity that Miami had, because I thought, at least for the first 30 minutes, Montreal were by far the better team. But, Miami did kind of start to get into this game after that chance in the 31st minute, but it would be Montreal the one that gets the opening goal and turns out to be the winning goal of this game, as Shineri, I think that's how you say it, he scored his first ever MLS goal from Mihailovic to make it 1-0 in favor of Montreal. And, that goal, I feel like McCarthy should have done better in terms of that, because I kind of feel like that one was hit straight toward him there. I mean, that was still a good goal from Shinori, but still, I feel like maybe McCarthy should have done better in terms of that situation. But nevertheless, Montreal was up 1-0 up to that point, and they would be held the same score as we head into the second half. So we go to the second half, and Mason Toye in the 50th minute missed an absolute sitter from 4 yards out, and if he would have scored that goal, thank you, Minnesota, in terms of that I have to say. But Miami, again, they started to push as Montreal was starting to drop their lines, and this was kind of the case when Montreal realized that all they need is just kind of sit back, because they know Miami does not look threatened going forward on the attack, and they would be able to hold on to this 1-0 lead. But McCarthy then had to make a save in the 65th minute, denying Mihajlovic on the near post. The game did kind of start to play in a very slow pace, which, again, I think Montreal decided to do that on purpose, because, you know, they want to slow things down, not allowing Miami to really get a lot of opportunity. And I even say that this slow pace kind of game favorites Montreal. Mihajlovic then had a 20-yard free kick that goes wide in the 76th minute before Pademis was able to deny Gonzalo Higuain, who once again had another quiet game. And you know, these games where Miami continued to struggle is also games where we've seen Higuain continue to have this goal drought, and you just wonder, is this like last year all over again, where, you know, besides that one great free kick that he scored against the Redbulls, he basically didn't score a single goal for the rest of the season, and it seems like it's kind of the same case once again seen this year. But nevertheless, the final score of this game was Montreal winning 1-0 against Miami. And the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to the 5 that Miami has, 7 shots on goal compared to the 3 that Miami has, 9 shots off target compared to the 1 that Inter Miami has. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Inter Miami has. And also with this win, I believe Montreal might have actually got themselves back above the red line, and if not, they're probably very close in terms of getting themselves back above the red line. But you know, for Miami, I'm going to say the same thing I said about TFC. I would maybe expect there could be some personnel change, and especially I think Phil Neville, he's probably feeling the heat right now, because this losing streak that Miami has been on in this last 5 games have not been great whatsoever. And you know, normally when I say a team that is having a winless run, I might sometimes say that there are a couple of games where they actually at least try to get a result. But when you look at this Inter Miami team and you look at this 5-game losing streak, I can't really say there's been one game where I've been saying, well, they did play relatively well, but unfortunately they kind of came up on the short end at the end of 90 minutes. It's just simply they just have not been good enough at all during this 5-game losing streak that they're currently on. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 5 games from the Saturday action. But yeah, moving on in terms of the next match is the Chicago Fire. And not only the fact that this was by far the best performance the Fire has put this season, but this was supposed to be what the Fire I thought would look like heading into this season, where they would definitely for once actually live up to expectation, and a lot of these talented players on their roster would actually able to click in this season. And you know, as I said, it definitely clicked in this one, as they just completely ripped apart Atlanta in this one. Now, in the first half, there wasn't really much chance in the first 15 minutes, although the first real chance came in the 14 minute when Kapelhoff, of all people, blazed one high from 20 yards out. I mean, you usually don't see a center back venture that far into the box to basically take a strike, but Johan Kapelhoff was able to find himself in that spot, and you know, why not try to see if you can maybe score a spectacular goal from that distance. But unfortunately, he puts that one. I thought neither team early in this game has been good in the final third, which is not a big surprise, because both of these teams have been really struggling in terms of the final third throughout this season. But Chicago did start to go on the front foot, and they were looking for the opener, and they got the opener in the 33rd minute. It's Aliseda scoring his first goal this season for the Fire from Madron to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire. I thought Aliseda and Madron had an incredible game in this one. The Fire continued to push for a second goal. Guzan would rob Frankowski, who was through on goal in the first minute of stoppage time. But then just 4 minutes later, and literally the last play of the first half, Aliseda scored his second goal of the game and his second goal this season for Navarro to make it 2-0 in favor of the Fire, and that has to be a back-breaking goal if you're Atlanta United, knowing the fact that you hope that, you haven't been playing well in the first half, but at least you hope that maybe you can get to halftime at 1-0 and make some adjustment, and then you gave up a goal right on the stroke of halftime, and now you face a 2-0 deficit heading into the second half. And in fact, I think that goal that they conceded right on the stroke of halftime really broke them, because heading into the second half, Chicago continued to dominate possession, and eventually they really put this game away in the 58th minute when Frankowski was able to score from Aliseda and Herberts to make it get 3-0 in favor of Atlanta. Again, Aliseda, an incredible game that he has, involved all 3 goals in this game, both on the score sheet twice and also on the assist chart once. Barco did try to get one back for Atlanta, but it goes wide in the 61st minute. Before Madron did try to get on the score sheet, but unfortunately his free kick goes wide. Then in the 71st minute, Shuttleworth, who was relatively quiet in this game, he had to deny George Bello, as that I thought was really one of the best chances that Atlanta has had up to that point. And when that is one of your best chances up to that point in the 71st minute, you definitely are not having a good game. But, for the last 19 minutes, it was really kind of garbage time where the game really calms down and both teams would just kind of settle the fact that this is going to be the final score of this game. And that, of course, is the case, as in the end, Chicago able to win 3-0 against Atlanta. Shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 11 that Atlanta has. 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that Atlanta has. 9 shots off target for the 3 that Atlanta has. 1 shot that was blocked for the 6 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And despite they were outpossessed in this game, in the end, they were definitely not outscore in this one, as they were able to really put on the best performance I think the Chicago Fire has played this season. And I want to say that they can, hopefully they can build on this performance, but one of the things that I think Fire fans are going to be a little bit worried about this team is that we've seen this before, where they have a good performance and then the very next game they basically went back to that Fire team, as we've seen for majority of this season, which is just one of the worst team right now in MLS. But hopefully maybe this is finally the time where they can find some consistent. But that being said, for Atlanta United, yeah, this is just probably one of the worst performances that they put this season. And you just wonder, they not only desperately want Joseph Martinez to be back in this team, but maybe they might need to think about making some more signings this summer transfer window, because most of those guys that they got so far in the last winter transfer window, well, most of those guys are either on the IR right now, or they're not performing at the rate they were expecting them to do when they bought them during the winter transfer window. And I also say with Gabriel Heinze, I know he is definitely going to be given time to get this team right, but we are also getting to that part of the season where this is going to be how Atlanta going to continue to look like. The heat is definitely going to start to go on Gabriel Heinze's side. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is none other than the Blues Not Derby. So, anytime when the Blues Not Derby ends in a draw, you would think I would be very happy about that, because at least I didn't see neither of my favorite team lost in the Blues Not Derby. But in this case, I was actually very angry about this result. And I was very angry about this result because I thought Minnesota should have won this one. Like, the biggest issue I have with the Loons this season, besides the fact that they start the season 0-4 and dig themselves in a hole to start the year, is the finishing. It's just been time after time in these last couple of games where the finishing are just clearly not there. And even though they have got away with it and still are able to get all 3 points despite the fact that they're not at their best in terms of finishing, I thought eventually they were going to maybe get punished because they weren't able to put away their chances. And in this game, that of course was the case. Now in the second minute, there was a shout for a penalty from the Loons, but nothing was given after Hansen looked like he was brought down in the box. The NBC Sports Bay Area, which is the feed that of course I'm watching, and obviously because I live here in the Bay Area, I of course watch that feed anytime when a Quakes game is on. But they label that Fragapane has a 3-point streak, and I put a question mark and an exclamation mark because you do know that this is soccer and not hockey. I mean, in hockey, yes, it makes sense why they, of course, said it's a 3-point streak because, when you get an assist or get a goal, that count as 1 point in hockey. But in soccer, that's not how it works. I mean, when you get a goal or an assist, that's basically it. And I feel like they rather should say at least he has a free game kind of streak where he is involved in terms of the score sheet, and not actually wrote kind of like a hockey kind of term that he actually has like a 3-point streak. But either way, that was kind of something that I want to put there on the board. But in the 16th minute, the Quakes gets the opening goal, and it's K Cal that scored from Espinoza to give the Quakes a 1-0 lead, and this was just a WTF turnover. And it's not Espinoza the one that made the WTF turnover, but it's actually Debasi the one that, of course, made a WTF turnover. And it's very rare that I see this Loons team, after this bad start that they had, that they've been making mistake at the back. But yeah, this was just a horrible mistake there from Debasi. Literally gave the ball straight to Espinoza. Kind of something similar to what I've seen the Quakes do regularly, and I was kind of surprised it's actually the Loons the one that have done it in that incident. And this is one of the times that the Quakes were actually on the other end of a bad turnover that happened in the defensive end. But either way, the Quakes, of course, up 1-0, though the Loons immediately tried to equalize in the 20th minute. Who knew they tried to do so, but he dragged his 13-yard shots wide. Then Boxall had to be subbed off with an injury in the 29th minute. Now, he didn't really seems like he was actually limping as he come off of an injury. He was just kind of walking off normally, and I guess maybe that's the good news, the fact that maybe that injury isn't really that serious, because he did kind of take a knot a couple of minutes before he was subbed off. But anytime when you see a player get subbed off early, and it might be because of an injury, it's definitely not a good sign. And again, I really hope Michael Boxall is not actually injured for a very long time, because he's no doubt the most important player in that back line, and he really is the leader of this Loons back line. And you can clearly see that throughout this rest of the game, this Loons back line was really shaky when he wasn't actually on the field. Brent Coleman did replace him in that spot, and besides the fact that the defense was kind of looking like a step off, it was the same with the attack too. Like the attack, throughout these first couple of games, I thought the attack has looked very well, and kind of looked what I expected this team to be. But in the first half, it was so bad. It almost kind of looked like something from the time when this team was still in that funk in the beginning of the season, and they were just putting no pressure against this Quakes team that we know that this Quakes defense is one of the worst defense in the league. So that was kind of very worrisome for me, the fact that how in the world are they not able to get some chances in this game and able to break down this Quakes defense that has been considered one of the weakest in the league. But in the 33rd minute, Reynoso did try to test the Quakes defense. In fact, he actually tried to test Mark Sinkowski here on the free kick, but unfortunately his 24-yard free kick goes high. There was another shout for a penalty for the Loons in the 43rd minute, as Gasper thought that he was brought down in the box. Nothing was given during that incident. Judson then had a 22-yard shot that goes wide before, right on the stroke of halftime, Coleman scored from Frankipani to tie the game up for Minnesota. And yeah, this was not a great goal whatsoever, and not a great moment for JT Marcinkowski, because Coleman basically kind of shoot this one from an impossible angle, and JT, he has to save that one. Like, you cannot let that one get past you. And the fact that it got past me, for me, I was kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I was kind of happy, because again, in some way, I was kind of rooting for Minnesota to win this one and hope that they can get all 3 points. But we do head to halftime with the score level at 1 apiece, and also I was maybe thinking, well, this is when the Quakes are going to unbuckle, because I've seen this before where even when they go up 1-0, as soon as they concede a goal, and especially right on the stroke of halftime, they're going to come unbuckle heading into the second half. And in the second half, Jackson Yu did try to curl one and try to completely go against the script of what I thought the Quakes were going to do, but it goes wide. Mark Sinkowski then denied Abila, while Dotson did try to follow that shot up, but unfortunately it goes wide. Fragapani then in the 53rd minute literally took on the entire Quakes defense and actually somehow and some way find just a grade A chance to score a goal, but unfortunately he struck the post from close range, and I basically also wrote the finishing was just atrocious from the Loons, and I thought they, is this going to be another one of these days where this team is eventually not going to find that second goal and take the lead in this one? But in the 69th minute, the Loons got a break because VAR actually gave Minnesota a penalty after it deemed Judson brought down Gasper in the box, and on the replay, it is pretty clear that Judson did bring down Gasper in the box. Albiela, though, even though he stepped in for this penalty, he was denied by Mark Sikowski in from the spot, but fortunately for him, that ball actually bounced right back toward him, and he basically just tucked it into the empty net to give Minnesota the lead in this one. And I thought, yep, this game is game, set, and match. There's no way the Quakes are coming back into this game, because this is usually the time where I always see the Quakes, once they can see that second goal after going up 1-0, or just if they do concede a late goal, they're probably not going to come back. So to my biggest surprise, just 12 minutes later, the Quakes equalize. It's Kekinevich scoring his first ever goal in MLS from Salinas to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And again, I was absolutely shocked the fact that the Quakes were able to show some fight back, because this is something it rarely happens. But also at the same time, I was not happy that of course happened, because again, I was really rooting for Minnesota to get all 3 points in this game. Alanis did try to even ruin my move further when he actually blazed one high from a long, well, not a long range, but actually from a free kick. But at the end of the day, it ends in a 2-2 draw. And also at the end of the game, there was actually a cheer from the Allianz Field crowd, which I thought that was strange, because I thought they would be very disappointed the fact that they dropped 2 points at home. But it turns out later they were cheering because Hassani Dotson actually proposed to his girlfriend, and yeah, that was, I would say that's kind of a weird timing to do so, because it's not like they of course won the game or even maybe move on into MLS Cup or even win MLS Cup, and he decided to propose. But nevertheless, it's always great to see that of course happen, and certainly congratulations to Hassani Dotson becoming a new father. They're there. But yeah, in the end, as I mentioned, it was a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, and the shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that the Quakes had, 3 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Loons had, 5 shots off target compared to 6 that the Loons had, 7 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Quakes had in this game. And again, I was definitely not happy about this result, because the Loons really dropped 2 points in this game, and this really felt like a loss for them. And for the Quakes, yes, they show some fight back, but the thing is, I don't know if this is gonna continue, because we've seen before where you might think they show some fight back in one game and maybe they turn things around, and then the next game happen. And especially when you look at the next 2 games that the Quakes are going to be playing, which is at Colorado and at SKC, unless if they miraculously able to beat Colorado and somehow maybe get something out of SKC and return from this road trip in a positive form, then maybe I will start believe that they of course are going to be back in playoff contention. Because as of now, I feel like this is just false hope. I feel like this is just one of those rare times where they're trying to give me some false hope that they are going to be back. And especially they're trying to give, maybe this is just a case where when Jesse Fornelli just got fired and that the players feels like they have a chip in their shoulder because they want to perform well whoever the new GM is going to be. Well, what happened when the new GM does come in? Are they going to continue to perform like they have a chip in their shoulder? So yeah, again, I feel like this is just false hope, and that I just don't think this is just a sign that maybe this is the beginning of a turnaround that the Quakes are going to end. But I'm sometimes being very pessimistic in terms of this team. Maybe some optimistic Quakes fans will say that maybe this is indeed the turning point, and that this team will start to get themselves back to winning form. Because despite the fact they got a draw on this one, it doesn't mean that their winless run has ended. It's now up to 8 games in terms of their winless run. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Nashville and the Union. And I'll tell you what, Nashville play a very Nashville game in this one. And it isn't a kind of Nashville game where they went down early in the game and eventually they were able to come back and show that resiliency. But it was more kind of like a Nashville kind of game from last season where they just did enough to score that one goal and lock it down at the end of the game and eventually hold on to a 1-0 result. And that is exactly what happened in this one. And they actually didn't take long to score their first goal of the game. It actually took 69 seconds to score that first goal, as CJ Sapon scored from Leal to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. Leal then had another chance to make it 2-0 as he went through on goal, but Andre Blake, who was hustling down the line, just got there in time to clear that one away. Sapon also almost scored a second goal, but unfortunately he couldn't quite toe poke that one in as the delivery was coming into the box. But I thought Nashville was well on top, and they were definitely looking to try to get a second goal. Willis, though, in the 38th minute, did deny Shabilko from 13 yards out, as Shabilko almost gave the Union the equalizer and almost score a goal against the run of plays. Before Willis did deny Burke in the 42nd minute, and despite the fact that Nashville were by far the better team up until the 38th minute, they actually were looking to try to be threatened and try to get the equalizer late in the first half. But we head to halftime with Nashville leading 1-0 against the Union. So we go to the second half, and Sapon unfortunately hits the side netting in the back post in the 49th minute before Blake would deny Mukhtar as he went one-on-one with Blake there. I thought Andre Blake had another game here, and unfortunately that goal that he wasn't able to save from Sapon, I don't think that one was really on him. But the Union, I also thought that they were having a lot of issue in terms of dealing with that Nashville counter, and a lot of that has to do with them kind of putting too many men forward. And when you decide to put too many men forward, you basically just play right into Nashville hand, where they can just easily go on the counterattack and create some of these chances. And most of the chances that they had was actually coming from the counterattack. Those in the 64th minute, I thought Santos has probably one of the best opportunities for the Union, but unfortunately he placed that one high from short range. Then in the 70th minute, it almost was 2-0 in favor of Nashville, and it actually wasn't going to be a goal scored from Nashville, but it actually is going to come from a good old friend that is called own goal, as Baizo almost become the latest victim of an own goal after he actually kind of deflected toward goal, but the post somehow was able to save him to become the latest victim and becomes the latest player to join the own goal club, as we have seen a couple of own goals that's been scored in terms of this Saturday night action. But Nashville, I thought as the game wears on, they started to drop their lines and just kind of counter, and it's also the same way of me saying that Nashville is basically locking things down. And if you are a Union fan, that is not a good news to hear, or if you're a Union player, that's not good news whatsoever, because once Nashville go into that deep block, it is almost impossible to try to solve it. And in the 77th minute, as I mentioned, of how Nashville, even though they were in a deep block, they were still looking good on the counter. And this time, Leal actually did win one-on-one with Andre Blake, but unfortunately, Blake was there, stood up tall to deny Leal and actually rob him during that situation. Philly did try to push for the equalizer late, but still, even though they tried to push for it, I knew they weren't going to break down this Nashville low block, and in the end, that of course was the case, as Nashville able to win 1-0 in this one. And the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 8 that the Union has, 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Union has, 7 shots off target compared to 3 that is blocked that the Union has. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 49% possession compared to 51% possession that the Union has in this game. And also Nashville, with this win, they snapped that 8-game unbeaten run that the Union has had coming into this one. And really, I didn't think the Union played very, very well in this one, but it's a lot to do with the fact that this is what Nashville can do to opposition, and this is why a lot of teams hate playing against Nashville SC. Like, they know what they're gonna do, which is trying to frustrate you and trying to suffocate you in terms of creating those chances. But even though you are pretty much prepared to do so, once you face them, it is still almost impossible to do. And, this is also the reason why I think Nashville, I don't want to call them a dark horse anymore, because I think last year they were kind of proven to be that team that was a dark horse heading into the East, where they could be a team that you really need to earn it if you're going to beat them. But if they can continue to play like this throughout the rest of the season and heading into the playoffs, then yeah, it is going to be another situation where I don't think any team want to face Nashville. And especially, the only way you can beat them is that you really need to earn them, and you need to maybe do something special to beat them, or score a special goal, because the only loss that Nashville have suffered this season was against the New York Redbulls a couple of weeks ago. But even in that game, you saw the Redbulls score some incredible goal, and that's really kind of almost the only way you can really beat this Nashville defense that I think is regarded as one, if not the best defense right now in the league. But now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is FC Cincinnati, who is now unbeaten in their last three road games. And like I said, this team, they continue to do well on the road, even though that's something I did not expect this team to do so, and really not expecting. That's something I did not expect from any MLS team, where usually it's the home form that MLS team usually do well. But FC Cincinnati has basically kind of flipped that one, where they haven't been playing well at home and haven't actually won a game at their brand new stadium, but on the road they still are able to pick up points, and they were able to pick up a point in this game against the Dynamo. Now, this game got delayed 20 minutes because there was lightning around the Houston area, which, again, it's not surprised that we see game delay in Houston, because I mentioned how Florida and Orlando City and also Inter Miami might be two teams that leads the league in terms of lightning. I would say that could be the same case with Houston, because I've seen so far this season there's already been a couple of delay that happened in Houston because of lightning, and it forced the game to be delayed for a couple of minutes. But fortunately for this one, it was only 20 minutes, and this game got started around 7:58 local time. But once the game did get started, that's when we see the fireworks happen in the first 5 minutes, because in the third minute, Tyler Pasher would score from Junkit and Urruti to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. And before the Dynamo can really soak in that early goal that they scored, they immediately equalize, or they immediately concede on the other end, and FC Cincinnati immediately equalized. And it's Barriel that scored from Jeff Cameron to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Barriel has started to become really their most lethal weapons, and really their main goal scorer for this FC Cincinnati side, which that is something I was not expecting, because I don't think a lot of people have heard about him with FC Cincinnati before, but he's had some very good game, been in some very threatening spot. In fact, I think he's also leading the team in terms of the goal scoring chart, because with this goal, I think this is the third goal that he have scored so far this season. But yeah, the game was all tied up at 1 apiece, but Houston did try to get the lead back in the 19th minute when Vermeer did deny Urruti from 19 yards out. Then Memo Rodriguez did put one wide from long range before Parker tried to put a header from the corner, but it goes high. Houston was definitely pressing to get the lead back in this game, but Maric did have to deny Brunier in the 33rd minute, and actually Brunier got his own rebound during that sequence, but unfortunately on the rebound he still dragged that shot wide. Before Maric had to deny Otunga in the 43rd minute, and it seems like Cincy looked like they were now the one that were looking to try to have the lead before halftime, but we do head to halftime with a 1-1 tie between both of these teams. Now heading into the second half, the Dynamo start the second half on the front foot, but I thought neither team really done much in the final third, and really I thought the game kind of was becoming a little bit physical. There was a lot of foul that was made, and also kind of the pace of this game was very stop and go, because there was a lot of stoppage that happened in the first 30 minutes of this second half. But in the latter stage of this game, the action started to kick in once again. Pico just steers it wide in the 86th minute as Fafa Pico almost gave Houston the lead back before Tim Parker tried to hit one again in the second minute of stoppage time in the second half, but unfortunately he puts that one wide from the corner spot, just like the one earlier in this game. And in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. And the shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 11 that FC Cincinnati has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 5 shots off target compared to 11 that Houston has, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Cincinnati has. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that FC Cincinnati has in this game. And like I said, FC Cincinnati, they are no longer a punching bag. Like, this team has really looked well in these last couple of games, and it's unsurprising that they are on this unbeaten streak right now and are starting to really look like they might be turning a corner and really could be that team that could be on the fringe of a playoff spot. I mean, you look on the standings, I know this result, I think, won't put them above the red line right now, but they are really there in terms of that spot. And you also got to remember they also have a game in hand over those team that is above them, so if they can get a win again in that game in hand, they could really find themselves above the red line. And a couple of weeks ago it was doom and gloom for this FC Cincinnati side, but look what a couple of weeks can do to a team when they're actually starting to play well. And this is also kind of the reason where, for some of these teams that might not be in a good run right now, it doesn't take a lot for you to get yourself back into the playoff picture. I mean, especially since we're still early. Well, I wouldn't say early into the season, but since when you look at the standings, it's still not as spread out as you would think it is. It only take a couple of games unbeaten run or get a couple of wins in a row, and you are right back into the playoff picture, or even get yourself above the red line. And if FC Cincinnati can continue to do that, this team can definitely get themselves above the red line. And that, again, is something a couple of weeks ago I don't think any FC Cincinnati fan would have thought that, of course, was the case. But now moving on into the last game on this board. And the last game on this board is going to be RSL versus LAFC, and LAFC stole 3 points in this game. I mean, Rio Tinto Stadium, it's basically called the Riot, but in this instant, it feels like LAFC put a riot on RSL, or maybe I would say in this case, LAFC basically completely robbed RSL in this game, because for majority of this game, RSL was by far the better team. But the only reason why RSL wasn't able to even get a point out of this game was finishing. And unfortunately, I have to kind of say this cliche saying that, this is what happened when one team is able to put away their chances when they're given, and one team had a ton of chances that they could score, but they weren't able to put it away, and they end up onto the losing end. Now, in the first half, again, not much happening in the first 15 minutes, but in the 16th minute, Brody did brought down Vela as he went through on goal, and actually got a yellow card for that. And certainly the LAFC player was lobbying at the referee, want to show a red to Brody there because of him bringing down Vela as he was going through on goal. But I thought that there was also another RSL defender in the vicinity, and even though sometimes you see when a player goes through on goal, as long as if there's another defender in the vicinity and he's in an area that he can maybe still makes the play, that is not denial of goal score opportunities. So that was the right call, the fact that Brody's only got a yellow card in terms of that incident. But then on that same sequence, LAFC actually almost got the opening goal, and it's actually the post that is the reason why they weren't able to get the opening goal, as Vela basically struck a beautiful free kick that unfortunately rattled the post. Then in the 30th minute, Romero did deny Ruiz there as his shot took a wicket deflection. I thought Romero had an incredible game in this one, and this might be a game that he might lock that spot in terms of the number one goalkeeper for this LAFC team. I mean, I know he's been starting as the starting goalkeeper for LAFC in replace of Sisiaga, but in terms of some of the performances they have put in these past couple of games, it's actually been very impressive, and he might actually win the starting spot. But we do head to halftime, 0-0 between both of these teams. And as we head into the second half, there was a shout for a handball from the RSL faithful 2 minutes into the second half, but nothing was given. They did show a graphic saying that the possession was 71-29 in favor of RSL after 55 minutes, and I actually kind of had to double check to see whether or not if that is actually the case, because I would definitely not have expected the fact that an LAFC team and a Bob Bradley LAFC team would be outpossessed like that, because it's usually LAFC the one that are dictating the game. But yeah, RSL, they indeed actually had that many possession, and they were kind of really dictating the game, and they again almost scored the opening goal in the 56th minute, but Romero was able to deny Rusnak from 19 yards out. RSL was definitely pressing for an opener up to that point. Before, in the 62nd minute, this was probably the best save that Romero made throughout the game, as he absolutely robbed Michael Che, who had a point-blank effort from about 12 yards out, but Romero, with some cat-like reflexes, able to deny him from that area. And that turns out to be a very important save, because just 8 minutes later after that save, LAFC would take the lead. It's Cifuentes scoring from Segura and Vela to give LAFC a 1-0 lead, completely against the run of plays when that goal was scored. But in the 72nd minute, RSL looked like they were going to get one back, and they probably could have got one back if it wasn't for Segura making some heroic clearance off the line. I mean, this Saturday action, we have seen a couple of times where we have seen a couple of players that have made some heroic clearance off the line, and this was just the latest one where it felt like Rubio Rubin just got enough to chip that one over Romero's head, but Segura was just there in time to clear that one off the line to preserve the lead for LAFC. There was a coming together between both teams in the 85th minute. RSL was pushing for a late equalizer before more pushing and shoving happened late in this game, but ultimately LAFC were able to hold on to get the 1-0 victory. And the shots in this game, 14 shots compared to 9 that LAFC had, 4 shots on goal compared to 1 that LAFC had. Both teams had 6 shots off target, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that LAFC had. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession. And like I said, I feel like LAFC really stole 3 points in this game, because RSL, how in the world did they at least not get a point out of this game? And I think this is also kind of an example where we've seen this before, where RSL aren't able to take advantage of their opportunity at home, and we have seen that they haven't been able to do so and only got a point out of this game. But this one is even more frustrating, because they didn't even get a point out of this game. They dropped all 3 points at Rio Tinto Stadium, and now all of a sudden they are starting to slide down the Western Conference table after they got off to a hot start to the season. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review in terms of these 9 games. And, I'm pretty sure that it's going to take a while for me to upload this video, because, usually when I have to review all 9 or maybe 10 or even at times 12 games this season, usually the video is going to tend to be very long. But if you did make it up to this part of the video, thank you for your loyal support, and also thank you for you guys watching this video, and also let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 9 games that happen on Saturday. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Hopefully you stay safe out there for this 4th of July day. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.